Riding of the Marches week at Musselburgh in July 1974 was the biggest and most ambitious event ever held in the honest tomb. Shops and houses all over the town were gaily decorated and prizes were awarded for the best ones. St. Michael's Parish Church at Inveresk. Men have worshipped on this site for centuries, and to open the week's festivities, a procession of people of all faiths walked from the town to the church for a service of dedication. Provost Mrs. Jessie Burns and the town clerk, Miss Agnes Johnson, led the procession, followed by the magistrates and councillors, honest lads and honest lasses from the annual Musselburgh festivals in previous years, representatives of local associations and members of the uniformed youth organizations. The custom of riding the marches to mark the borough boundaries developed from religious processions in pre-Reformation times. Musselburgh folk have kept up this tradition for more than 300 years. Nowadays, the celebration lets us share in our town's heritage and helps to keep a community spirit alive. The service over, the parish minister, the Reverend Sidney Adamson, led the procession from the church. The harbour at Fisher Row, home of a thriving fishing community with a long history and its own traditions, was the picturesque setting for a regatta and various aquatic events. The provost and principals in the riding of the marches were hosts at a civic reception for visitors and returned Musselburgh exiles from all over the world.
This is not a morning for making speeches at all, but I would want to welcome you home to Musselburgh on the occasion of this, the 1974 riding of the marches. My bailies and councillors are delighted to see so many of you here this morning.
Prizes at a five-a-side football competition were presented by the manager of Scotland's World Cup team, Willie Ormond, whose home is in Musselburgh.
I do hereby declare that I shall be a faithful and true subject to our Sovereign Lady the Queen and to her royal successors, that I shall obey and support to the utmost of my power the provost, magistrates and councillors of the borough of Musselburgh, shall acknowledge and submit to the acts and statutes.
The town clerk read the Burgess Oath at this special meeting of the town council, at which almost 200 people were sworn in as burgesses of Musselburgh.
Them and their servants and officers in the lawful execution of their respective offices.
Mistress Nancy B. H. Wilson.
Each burgess received a scroll and the traditional bat with 3 mussel shells embedded in it. Senior citizens gathered from all over the town for their Riding of the Marches treat, a day's bus outing to Dunfermline.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. The burgesses, craftsmen and whole inhabitants of the borough of Barony and Regality of Musselburgh are hereby warned and summoned to attend my provost, magistrates and council at the ringing of the toll booth bells on Tuesday 23rd of July at 6 o'clock in the evening for the purpose of riding the town's marches and liberties according to the use and custom of the ancient and honourable borough, and under penalty of £40 Scotch each. God save the Queen and my provost.
And so, at the toll booth, the stage was set for the traditional Riding of the Marches pageantry.
The ancient charters of the borough of Barony and Regality of Musselburgh, and particularly first, charter given, granted and conceded by David of happy memory, by the favour of God, King of the Scots, dated the 24th day of the month of October, and in the 34th year of the reign of the said King David. Second, charter given, granted and conceded by Robert, Commendator of the Monastery of Dunfermline, dated the 11th day of December 1562. And third, charter granted by the noble and principal Earl John, Earl of Lauderdale, Viscount Maitland, Lord Thirlstane and Bolton.
Georgianus, turf cutter, I charge you to ride the marches of the town. Cut the turf of the 12 stations which by ancient custom mark our borough boundaries. When you have successfully discharged this duty, you will return to the market cross and signify that the marches have been ridden and that the borough boundaries have been kept.
Thank you. Very best of luck, George. I believe you'll come.
John Downey, town champion, I charge you, with you squires, to ride before the turf cutter and to protect him at all times from any who would dispute his traditional right to cut turf and mark our borough boundaries. If any should dispute his ancient rights and privileges. You will then challenge them to single combat at a time and place which shall be agreed. As a token of my regard, John, I would like you to wear this favour, since it's your chosen colour.
The formalities over, the cavalcade set off for the first turf-cutting station at Ravenshoe, led by the town champion, John Downey, in full armour, with his two squires, Robert Wilson and Eric Anderson, and the turf cutter, George Innes, carrying his silver spade, accompanied by his page, Sandy Brown.
It's all in.
It's regarded as a great honour to catch a piece of turf as a keepsake. The riding of the marches has been observed and recorded in Musselburgh for at least 300 years, and is probably much older than that. In recent times, it's been celebrated every 21 years or so, and the next one should have been in 1977. It was brought forward because the town council, who organised the celebration, will no longer function after May 1975, when Musselburgh becomes part of the larger administrative unit of East Lothian District. It was felt that the new authority might not give the event the support it had received in the past, so no effort was spared to make the 1974 riding a memorable one. Musselburgh has been a community for hundreds of years, and traditions like the riding of the marches and the annual festivals run by the Honest Tunes associations help to keep local patriotism alive and preserve a sense of belonging. Musselburgh folk are determined that these traditions should not be allowed to lapse after the reorganisation of local government.
I cut this turf.
Look here.
And say in the traditional words, it's all rain.
Are you walking?
That's it, Sandy. I cut this turf and say in the traditional words, it's all rain.
The riding of the marches is no mere jollification, but a legal procedure. The turf cutting is observed by a notary public and 2 legal witnesses. And a notarial protest is later lodged at the Scottish Record Office in Edinburgh for all time. Brunston Mill, last point on the boundary, where at former ridings the turf cutters' party were denied entry. No such challenge was made this year.
It's all rain.
And so the cavalcade returns to the toll booth to report another successful riding of the marches.
Provost, magistrates, councillors, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it gives me great pleasure tonight to report back to our Provost that the 12 traditional points on our old boundaries, the turf has been cut.
Mr. Turf Cutter, you have faithfully discharged your duties, and as a memento from the borough, and as part of my personal esteem, George, I would like you to keep this spade for yourself.
Hip, hip, hip! Hip, hip, hip! Hip, hip, hip! And once for that, hip, hip, hip!
Having made sure that within our boundaries it's all rain, we welcomed more than 40,000 spectators to a fancy dress parade over a mile long, with 250 riders and more than 100 vehicles. is the oldest in Scotland. A special riding of the marches trotting meeting had the highest prize money in Britain for this type of racing. Fisherwomen, in their picturesque traditional costume, conducted visitors round an exhibition depicting life in Musselburgh through the ages. Exhibits submitted by local school children showed the town as the young generation see it. Golf exhibits included the oldest golfing trophy in the world.
We're standing here in a very historic piece of ground. In written history, it's the oldest golf club in the world. It's mentioned in written history in the reign of James I or James VI, or whatever you like to call him.
George Colville, veteran Musselburgh golfer, showed that he could still scalp a ball at the age of 80. Cycling, an exciting new sport for Musselburgh, took place on a course round the promenade and New Street.
So that's still next to me, the first bound of the kitty. As you can see, as I promised you, the woods came out as the race went on. This type of racing is very difficult. There are so many corners to negotiate.
A pageant was held every night in the Brunton Hall depicting the history of Musselburgh from the time of the Roman occupation.
Your Majesty, my lords, gentlemen of Scotland, I am proud that ye have come here today to Musselburgh to declare your faith in me. I am young, but I have already learned much, and I promise ye that whatever I do, I shall think first of Scotland.
Musselburgh Highland Games were honoured with a visit from His Imperial Highness Crown Prince Reza of Iran, eldest son of the Shah. In the Brunton Hall, Provost Burns and her husband led off the dancing at the Civic Ball to celebrate yet another successful riding of the marches. one to be remembered for many a year. Until the next time. For there must be a next time. Even if there's no town council to organize it, there will be another riding of the marches. Musselburgh folk will insist on that. And the old cry of "It's all rain" will ring out again as the turf is cut and the boundary is marked.
Once in every 21 years, the townsfolk of Musselburgh proudly proclaim the riding of the marches and revel in the glory of their past heritage. The celebrations of 1956 were anticipated with immense enthusiasm, for the town had suffered a long and painful war and was now reaching a peak of local prosperity. In addition, the celebrations were to be distinguished by a royal presence. Her Majesty, the Queen Mother, and Lady Elphinston were to receive the freedom of the borough. Sunday, the 12th of August, the inaugural service at Inveress Kirk. Provost Reid, the town clerk David Taylor, and the bailies leave the council chamber. They are followed by the town council and the riding of the marches principals. Heading the procession are 3 horse-drawn carriages. The magistrates lead the way down the High Street and on to the parish church at Inveress. They are followed next by the town champion and the turf cutter, and then the 3 attendants. The kirk at Inveress stands on historic soil. Many episodes of our history have been played out around this site. Today the sun shines kindly on St. Michael's, and the occasion follows in the traditions of the past. The carriages arrive and the coachman settles the horses. A few spectators arrive early, determined to get a good view of the proceedings to come. The magistrates carefully step down from their carriage and are welcomed by the session clerk, John Dixon. Resplendent in their robes of office, they move in procession. Provost, clerk, bailies James Hill, James Lannon, and Alec Lowe, towards the church. Here they are welcomed by the parish minister, the Reverend David Stiven MC, and the Reverend Alec Innes, who is to preach the sermon, and whose father wrote the verses of the Honest Tune song. Lady Elphinston arrives. John Dixon waits to receive Lady Elphinston, but not for the first time, for the Elphinston family have held the premier pew in the church for generations, and John, who has served as the session clerk for nearly 30 years, is well known and respected throughout the parish. Dr. Stephen welcomes her ladyship and her lady-in-waiting and introduces the guest preacher, the Reverend Alec Innes, a native of the borough and now minister at Clarkston. After exchanging a few words, the dignitaries, watched by a gallery of spectators eager to get a close-up view, are ushered through their private entrance and into the Elphingston pew. The antiquity of the church as a place of worship is beyond question. The Romans erected an altar to Apollo on the site. Late in the 5th century, a Christian church was established by Saint Modwenna, an Irish missionary, and dedicated to St. Michael's. Many of Musselburgh's famous sons are buried in the graveyard which surround the church. The grave of our most distinguished citizen, David Macbeth Moyer, is to be found in the kirkyard. Here we see the Brunton family memorial. It was John who was to bequeath to the town the Brunton Hall. The commanding view from the summit and the proximity of the sea combined to give the site great strategic importance in the past. The path that our coachman travels was trod by the Romans, by Cromwell, Prince Charlie, and other characters from past history. The church, prior to the present one, was demolished in 1803. It had stood for nearly 300 years. The present edifice was opened for worship in 1805. After the service, Lady Elphingston leaves by her private portal and is escorted by the session clerk to her car. Her ladyship is to be in attendance at ceremonies during the week and will act as companion to Her Majesty the Queen Mother. The Provost and the magistrates, followed by the principals, the town champion Bill Caird, the turf cutter Dean of Guild Bobby Fairney, escorted by the Chief Constable, walk in procession past the Celtic Cross War Memorial on Kirkbrae, past the townsfolk who have come to witness the occasion towards their waiting carriages. In the congregation, now leaving the church, there are the members of the many committees that have organized the functions that will take place, and others that are in various ways concerned with the riding of the marches. The parishioners of St. Michael's have also turned out in numbers, large and small, to witness this very special service. The magistrates prepare for the return journey to the council chambers. The congregation exchange pleasantries and hope that they will be in time to see the procession. Dr. Stephen discusses some points of interest with one of his congregation, and the Reverend Alec Innes talks to old friends. I'm sure he remembers Johnny Keir, one of the local worthies. Once everyone is seated comfortably in their carriages, the procession sets off. There we see Billy Love, attendant to the turf cutter, Jimmy Arthur and Jim Hunter, squires to the champion. As the procession moves through Inveresk and back to the council chambers, the people of Musselburgh now know that the riding of the marches has officially started. Monday, 13th of August. Natives of the borough from abroad are received at the town hall. The riding of the marches has always been a signal to the natives of the borough around the world to visit home. Provost Reid held a reception for them, and here we see some of them arriving at the town hall. The town crier makes his proclamation, summoning the inhabitants to witness the riding of the boundaries. The town crier rings the bell and beats the drum, summoning the inhabitants of Musselburgh to attend the provost for the purpose of riding the town's marches, according to the customs of the ancient borough. John MacLeod speaks the same words that were used by his predecessors centuries ago, much to the interest and amusement of his audience. New burghers, including women, for the first time. At a special meeting of the town council in the town hall, Provost Reid presents the new burghers with their bap and their burgess scroll. One of the first women ever to become a burgess was Anna Scarlett of Inveresk. 156 new burgesses took the oath, including for the first time 56 women. By this they declare their loyalty to the Crown, pledging their support to the provost and stating that they will be law-abiding citizens. Formalities completed, their name is added to the ancient record of freedom and burgess. The occasion was one of much sadness for Mrs. Hunter. Her husband, Provost Hunter, had played a major part in preparing for the riding of the marches. Unexpectedly, he died a few weeks before the start of the ceremonies. It was necessary not only to appoint a new provost, but to revise many of the arrangements that had been finalized. Here we see Ruth Caird, wife of the town champion, and next Bobby Fairney, the turf cutter, both being presented by the provost. Mrs. Athey, mother of the former honest lass, Mary Athey, is well known because of the family commitment to sport in the town. Tuesday, 14th of August, the Royal Day. This was to be one of the most important days in the history of Musselburgh. Her Majesty, the Queen Mother, had graciously consented to receive the freedom of the borough and to attend the riding of the marches. Leading the official party from the town hall is Lord Rosebery, Lord Lieutenant and the Queen's representative for the county of Midlothian. He pauses to discuss some details with the Sheriff Principal of the Lothians and General Delacombe, the regimental colonel of the Royal Scots. Lord Rosebery leads the procession past the regimental band and the Guard of Honour, both furnished by our local regiment, the Royal Scots. The Royal Standard is acknowledged with a salute, and Provost Reid leads the party onto the platform. The magistrates with their wives are ushered into place by the Chief Constable, the well-known Willie Merlis, and joined by the Parish Minister, Dr. Stiven, and Mrs. Stiven. The four principal dignitaries take their seat at the front of the platform, awaiting the arrival of the Queen Mother. A buzz of excitement spreads around the gathering, and the royal cars approach at the appointed time. The crowd give Her Majesty an affectionate welcome. They clap and cheer and wave their flags and hope to get a good view as the cars slow down. Queen Mother is welcomed by Lord Rosebery. He then presents the Provost and the other principals to Her Majesty, and she has a friendly word with each of them. Lady Elphinston, sister to the Queen Mother, is warmly welcomed. Then the royal party mounts the platform where the magistrates and their wives are presented to Her Majesty. The royal salute is given by the commander of the guard, the ranks present arms, and the colour party parade the royal standard. The band plays the national anthem, and everyone respectfully stands to attention. The military ceremonial is executed with precision, and the troops are prepared for inspection by Her Majesty. Lord Rosebery escorts Her Majesty from the platform, and they are joined by the guard commander. As Her Majesty walks towards the ranks, others in the crowd get a clear view of their royal guest. Those near to her can see that her presence radiates a very special charm, and that she has a genuine interest in those people that she meets. She has stayed at Carbery Tower on many occasions and is regarded with great affection by the people of Musselburgh. Today she has honoured the town by her royal presence at her historic celebrations, and here we see the Queen Mother record her visit in the town records. Bouquets of flowers are presented to the Queen Mother and to Lady Elphinston by Christine Taylor and Alison Caird, daughter of the town champion. The Provost escorts the royal party to the town hall, past the Market Cross, acknowledged as the historic centre and gathering point of the town, past our cameraman and the Royal Scots Band, to the town hall where the members of the town council and their wives will be presented to Her Majesty. While mounting the steps of the Tolbooth, the Queen Mother pauses to acknowledge the large crowd. The royal standard, flying from the mast above the town hall, proclaims the royal presence. On leaving the town hall, Her Majesty pauses once again to wave to the crowd that had waited patiently to catch another glimpse of her. In the background, we see the Chief Constable, William Herlies, watching to see that everything goes according to plan. The Queen Mother visits Caerswind to see the old folk. As Her Majesty moves towards Caerswind, the photographers are well positioned to get the town hall and the military parade into the background of their photographs. The crowd cheer and wave their flags with great enthusiasm. Then, when the royal party has passed, they are certain to exchange views and comments. Her Majesty has come to see the old people's homes that have recently been completed. Mr. William Langlands, aged 71, and his wife were thrilled when the Queen Mother asked to see their new home. Her Majesty spoke with several of the residents, something they will be proud to tell their grandchildren. Then the royal party were escorted past the waiting crowd, more anxious than ever to get a close-up view of Her Majesty, back to the Royal Daimler, flying the royal pennant and ready to move off at the appropriate moment. As the cars drive away, the Guard of Honour presents arms, and the massive crowd lining the street gives the Queen Mother and Lady Elphingston an affectionate farewell. Her Majesty and Lady Elphingston receive the freedom of the borough in Louisville Park. With the police escort leading the way, the royal cars enter Louisville Park by Cottage Lane, travel along the tree-lined avenue, and arrive at the appointed time of 12:15. A large crowd gives Her Majesty a loyal and warm reception, and Provost Reid and Lord Rosebery are waiting to welcome the royal visitors. Her Majesty radiates her sincere pleasure as she steps down from her car, and after exchanging greetings, the official party proceed to the bandstand where the freedom ceremony is to take place. After the town clerk has read the Burgess Oath to the Queen Mother and Lady Elphingston, the Provost presents to the royal ladies the Burgess ticket. The royal ladies are asked to sign the record of honorary burgesses and to accept gifts from the community of Musselburgh. The ceremony has taken place in full view of the magistrates and the riding of the marches principals. Then, as Her Majesty walks back to her car, the crowd get an excellent view of their youngest burgesses. Her Majesty pauses to acknowledge the good wishes of the crowd before she enters the royal car. Then the crowd presses forward to get a better view. They cheer and wave their flags as a token of their genuine affection for Her Majesty. Then the royal car is driven away. Here we see the town bailies with their wives, followed by Councillor Hamilton, Jimmy Mackey, the town chamberlain, John Wheatley, the local MP, and others. Those that were unable to get near the bandstand now try their best to get a glimpse of the royal party as they leave the park. Her Majesty goes to lunch at the council chambers and at 2:40 performs the opening ceremony of Pinkie School. The large crowd needs be patient to get out of the park, but they take away with them a memory that they will always remember. They were there when the Queen Mother received the freedom of Musselburgh in Louisville Park. The crowd disperses. Some people make off quickly, while others want to have a brief word with friends, or perhaps collect a lost member of the family. In the evening, Her Majesty returns to witness the turf cutting. The mounted principals, wearing the traditional dress and riding silver grey horses, arrive at the Market Cross. At 6 p.m. the toll booth bell will ring in the fair, proclaiming the start of the celebrations. The provost, magistrates, councillors and their wives, accompanied by the town champion and the turf cutter, mount the platform. The provost goes to have a final word with the champion and the turf cutter, who are soon to ride out on his behalf. The provost prepares for the arrival of the Queen Mother and Lady Elphinston, while the platform party and the large crowd which is assembled enjoys the evening sunshine and waits expectantly. The royal occasion has been blessed with perfect weather, and as the ceremonies continue, the skies remain cloudless. At 6:05, the royal visitors arrive exactly on time. The Queen Mother has a word with the town champion. She asks him if he is comfortable in his suit of armour, and if it is difficult to move around. She has a few words with the turf cutter, and then Her Majesty and Lady Elphinston move to the place of honour and prepare for the start of the official ceremonies. The provost calls on the town clerk to read the proclamation of the riding of the marches. In doing this, he refers to the rights of the town as laid down in the ancient charters dating back to the 15th century. By virtue of these charters, and in the name of the sovereign and the provost and bailies, he declares the commencement of the riding of the marches. The provost invites the Queen Mother to present the ceremonial spade to the turf cutter. The town champion, the turf cutter, and the notary public leave the platform, each taking care not to turn their back on Her Majesty. Then they make their way to their horses and prepare for the ride-out. The town champion, armed with the ceremonial lance and accompanied by his 2 squires, leads the procession as it sets out to ride the marches. Next come the turf cutter, bearing the ceremonial spade with his attendant, and followed by the notary public and 2 witnesses in open carriage. The burghers and the other riders follow the mounted principals. A cavalcade of some 300 riders troop past the royal visitors. The youngest rider in the procession is Elizabeth Love, daughter of the turf cutter's attendant. Provost Reed describes some of the details before Her Majesty and Lady Elphinston go to see the turf cutting take place. We see that the townfolk have turned out in large numbers to witness the historic occasion, and that they have given the royal guests a wonderful welcome. Large crowds gather around the railway station to see the turf cutting. The police keep the roadway clear as people scramble around looking for a good view. The cavalcade arrives, led by the town champion. Her Majesty, escorted by the provost, is positioned near to the point where the turf will be cut. The turf cutter digs deep into the turf box and carefully removes a divot. This is hurled over his shoulder into the crowd in full view of Her Majesty, while at the same time he shouts out the traditional slogan, "It's all our in." Her Majesty appears to be quite captivated by the ceremony, and the turf cutter, satisfied with his work, acknowledges the crowd, and the cavalcade moves off to repeat the ceremony at the 11 remaining points around the town boundary. Meanwhile, the school children receive the prizes from Lady Rosebery. Specialist competitions were held in each of the 7 local schools on subjects relating to Musselburgh life, and prizes were awarded by the town council. Here we see Lady Rosebery present the prizes to 2 of the younger prize winners. Lord Rosebery and the Provost, however, have other matters to attend to. Prizes were also presented to the dux pupils of each of the schools. The Provost is informed that the royal car approaches and the Lord Lieutenant gets ready to receive the royal visitors. Finally, the Provost pays tribute to Her Majesty for the honour of her royal presence on this historic occasion. Her Majesty departs. The large crowd bids an affectionate farewell to the Queen Mother. They wave and cheer as the car moves off, up Newbigging and on to Carberry Tower. The crowd disperses and goes off to meet the returning cavalcade, led by the town champion, who will inform the Provost that the boundaries of the borough have been safely defended. Wednesday, 15th of August, a great procession moves through the town. The crowds begin to gather in front of the town hall, where the market cross marks the central focus of the town. The erection of the cross was granted as a right under our ancient charter, as was the fair of St. James and the riding of the marches itself. The procession approaches. It consists of 9 sections and endeavours to depict every aspect of the community. It proceeds throughout the town to the strains of music provided by no less than 11 bands. It is headed by the town's trades band, marching in front of the mounted principals. The streets are lined with a large enthusiastic crowd. The sun is shining brightly and the town is well decorated for the occasion. The champion and his squires lead the procession up Newbigging, the crowd of them a cheer. The turf cutter brandishes the ceremonial spade and his attendant hails the crowd. In addition to the official party, Section A includes all the riders, the Burges, the Crusaders, border visitors, and the HTA honest lads and lasses. The Provost and the magistrates ride in the 2 open carriages, and officials of other associations follow in a cavalcade of cars. Section B is led by the band of HMS Caledonia, the Donnybrook Naval Base, and in this section we have the various societies in the town and the military and youth organisations. Here we have Robin Hood leading the foresters, proudly displaying their colourful banner And here we have the Fisher-O fishwives in their colourful petticoats and shawls. The banner team of the Boys' Brigade and the companies that follow portray the growth of the movement from its inception. This lucky family has a wonderful view of everything. There are around 200 guides and 150 Boys' Brigade marching in the procession. The band of the 1st Battalion, the Gordon Highlanders, leads Section C, which is made up entirely of Musselburgh and Fisher-O co-op entries. Here we see the butchers. They have a long and a proud association with the procession. In 1873, they fought a battle with the tailors against the weavers for pride of place in the procession. The fishwives float, showing several well-kent faces, is the first of 5 entered by the Fisher-O Fishermen's Association. This is the herring production float. And it is followed by a genuine lifeboat vessel. This house on wheels shows all the attractive design features of Crudens Limited. The procession is led along the picturesque Mall Avenue, past the statue of David Macbeth Moyer and across the River Esk into Fisher-O. This view from the High Church Tower shows clearly the large crowds that have gathered along the entire route of the procession and indicate the commitment of the townsfolk to their historic celebrations. Here we see the 2 halberdiers who traditionally escort the provost's carriage. It has taken a great deal of forward planning to move the procession round the town, and apart from a minor hitch, everything goes smoothly. With only 2 of the sections across the bridge, we begin to see the immense scale and grandeur of the procession. This tableau is named The Queen and the Fairy Folk. It is one of the 3 tableaus presented by the Musselburgh District Brownies. The dancing of the butchers is a traditional feature of the procession. Expected and much appreciated by the crowd, but it requires a lot of stamina and perhaps a little something is necessary to replenish their energy. Louisville Spartans Athletic Club lead the sporting organisations. This is followed by a tableau, Sir Francis Drake, most appropriate to the bowling clubs of Musselburgh. The gaily bedecked lorries which follow carry the tableaus of the cycling club and the combined football clubs. Judging by the delight and enthusiasm of this crowd, the sports section is very popular. Supporting hearts at this tender age is understandable when we see the trophy that has been won. It is the famous Scottish FA Cup. These boys certainly know how to get a grandstand view of things. The RNLI lifeboat from Anstruther is always ready to come to the aid of local fishermen when in distress, and so it gets a special welcome. At the harbour, the sight of the boats tell us that the fishermen are back home for the celebrations. It is believed that there has been a harbour on this site since the time of the Romans. Here we see a float entered by Ford the baker, and this tableau of the town champion is presented by the SMT garage, which used to stand at the top of the high street. A boxing tableau entered by Cruden's Limited is supervised by our local boxer hero, Bob Scally, and here's the Walliford Pipe Band and the Fisher O'Ladies Choir, both reflecting the joyous mood that everyone shares on this special day. Finally, as the procession moves past the elegant Wright Fountain and down the High Street, the large crowd gets one last look at this thrilling spectacle. It contains nearly 200 vehicles and in some places stretches out for nearly a mile. Those on foot have had a long walk but show no signs of flagging. The official party arrives back at the Market Cross and Provost Reid prepares to take the salute. Standing to the right of the Provost is Sir John Banks, the Provost of Edinburgh, an official guest of the Town Council. It was safe out, safe in for the Crusaders Riding Club. They had turned out in full strength for the occasion. Everyone is given a rousing reception from this group of younger enthusiasts, and a special cheer for the butchers, exhausted but still dancing. Bill Caird and Jimmy Arthur watch with great interest as the procession passes. The immense crowd that has turned out demonstrates yet again that the townsfolk of Musselburgh are deeply committed to the riding of the marches. The band of the Gordon Highlanders is followed by the directors of the Co-op Society, and now the bakers carrying their ancient banner with pride. Adding something quite new to the procession are the Daleks. Our visitors from outer space are followed by our visitors from Fairyland and their queen. As the procession moves down the high street, we get an indication of the number of floats and tableaus that have taken part. So much thought and hard work has gone into producing the entries that it is so difficult to single out any one in particular. The float drawn by a pair of greys catches the eye and reminds us of days gone by. The Pleasant Saturday Afternoon tableau entered by the Rugby Club illustrates clearly the joys and the hazards of the game. There were 4 pipe bands in the procession: the Walliford Pipe Band, the Wick Girls Band, the Border Boys Brigade Band, and the Musselburgh Pipe Band, which we now see marching with precision past the town champion. The contributions made by the Musselburgh and District Brownies were quite outstanding. They received a great deal of attention and acclaim from the spectators. This is their Mother Goose. Our tough cutter, Bobby Fairney, and his attendant, Billy Love, are obviously very impressed with what they see. A great deal of delicate work has been taken not only with the tableaus but also with the costumes. Kids and grown-ups alike are quite spellbound by what they see, and they voice their appreciation. The Ladies' Fisherrow Choir, renowned for their colourful singing of local songs, is followed by a host of tableaus. The Highland Association, the Unionist Association, Ward 4 Children's Gala Committee, and still more excellent presentations. It has taken over an hour for the procession to pass. The entries have been of the highest standard, producing a magnificent spectacle that will be remembered by the spectators for many a day. The crowd disperses. There's just enough time for lunch before the next event. In the afternoon, the races. The official guests leave the town hall, where they have been entertained to luncheon by the provost and the magistrates. Mr. Ness, the sanitary inspector, discusses some points of interest with Sir John Banks, Provost of Edinburgh. Sir John then leaves for the grandstand in his official car, a most elegant Rolls-Royce. The Musselburgh Fair Day Association arranged to hold their annual race meeting during the Riding of the Marches week. 12 races are run in order to find the winner of the Musselburgh Trot. It's a good day for sport, and trotters come from all over Britain for this prestigious event. The Challenge Cup is won by Mr. Rowlands of Manchester and is presented on behalf of Andrew Ayton, the Association President. A fine display of local produce. The flower show was held in Inverness Church Hall and organised by the local Horticultural Society. Cups and prizes were awarded in both the open and the amateur sections, which together offered 134 classes for plants, flowers, fruit and vegetables. The Riding of the Marches trophy was presented by the Town Council and awarded to the most successful exhibitor in the parish. The exhibit of flowers by Robert Aitchison of Inverness was judged to be supreme. The vegetables on show were outstanding. Excellent entries were received from all around the district, from Small of Tranent, Dixon of Whitecraig, as well as from the local enthusiasts such as Eggy Scott, George Minto and Arno Greer. Judging took place over 2 days and Provost Reid presented the prizes on Saturday at 3 p.m. Musselburgh has always been renowned for its leeks, and as expected there were many contenders in this class, all hoping that their entry would catch the judge's eye. The successful rival on this occasion was George Grinley of Gifford. The exhibition in the grammar school. The aim of the exhibition was to put on display articles which reflect the traditions and the history of the town, and to recall the achievements of its citizens. The fishing community is rich in treasures which have been handed down from generation to generation, local pottery and porcelains of rare value. The details of these pieces are revealed by the fishwives on duty. Another section displays pieces that date back 2,000 years to Roman times. Coins and pottery like this are still to be found at Inverness. The Musselburgh silver arrow shown here is dated 1676. It is reputed to be the oldest trophy in the world that is contested annually. It is the showpiece of the Royal Company of Archers and is taken to be priceless. There is a vast collection of other trophies won by local sportsmen. The golfing memorabilia is known to be world famous. The Queen Mother visited the exhibition and spoke at length with the fishwife Amy Orr. The municipal exhibits include the town officer's drum, a Burgess Bab and Scroll dated 1845, Town Council minutes of 1679, and a Provost ceremonial spade dated 1902. The exhibition showed arts and crafts, past and present, a Paisley shawl over 150 years old, an 18th century hand-embroidered lady's dress, bedspreads and fire screens. Nearly every room in the grammar school was filled with precious objects, paintings, medals, church exhibits, displays by our local regiment, and for the kids, a pet's corner. Bad weather marred the pageant. The pageant brought to life the history of Musselburgh, presented it to us in all its colour on a grandiose scale. It was written in 10 episodes by Alexander Reid, the playwright, and began with a dedication to the Esk, the river which has seen all the happenings in the borough since time immemorial. Over 250 people take part, supported by the Musselburgh Trades and Pipe Bands, the Fisher-O Ladies Choir, 30 mounted riders and carriages. Everyone was dressed in the costume appropriate to the period, and authenticity was preserved as far as possible. Sadly, it rained heavily during each of the 3 evening performances. The first scene predicts our forebears as they were during the Roman occupation. The script relates to the granting of the borough charter by David I, confirming our rights as a regality. The story of the Earl of Murray was played out in regal splendour. The dying regent was given rest and succour, and it is from his message to the townfolk that we get our honest tune motto. An early fair day scene is shown. The ancient fair of St. James is a rite that dates back to the granting of the borough charter. It was a big day for celebrations, for it was the only annual public holiday in the year. The pageant also portrays the visitation of the Dutch dignitaries come to present the town with a clock for the toll booth. Other episodes portray the disastrous Battle of Pinkie in 1547 and the Battle of Preston Pans and Prince Charlie's stay in the town. King James V made a pilgrimage to Musselburgh in 1536 to beseech the divine guidance of the Virgin at the newly dedicated chapel of Loretto. The founder of the chapel was the Crusader Thomas Duthie. Monks from Dunfermline Abbey were seconded to Loretto, which became celebrated as a popular sanctuary. When the chapel was demolished in 1590, its materials were used in constructing the toll booth. For this sacrilege, Musselburgh was excommunicated by Rome. The Fisher-O Ladies Choir, under the direction of Mrs. Brodie, continue the story by singing the traditional songs which contain much detail of our folklore. The surrender of Mary Queen of Scots to the rebel lords on Carberry Hill is portrayed on horseback. The Musselburgh story has been told. The stage is empty, save for the sound of the pipes gradually fading away, but we are left with treasured memories, the memories of our past history. The grand firework display brings this memorable week to a close. A large crowd assembled at the grandstand, not only to see the spectacle, but to meet with friends and to talk over the glorious events of the week. These events have now become memories, and it is appropriate that we ask the town champion, Bill Caird, to recall some of these for us.
The events of the 1956 riding of the matches were the most memorable one in my life, and to be town champion was the greatest honour I could ever have wished for. I enjoyed the pleasures of my office, but this was made possible only by the dedication of our last team of workers. And I was fortunate to have two excellent squires, Jim Hunter and the late Jimmy Arthur, our first honest lad. We were ably assisted by a tough cutter, Dean of Guild Bobby Fairney, who is the right choice for this most important post, and his assistant, Bill Love, our 1948 honest lad. The highlight of the week was the visit of Her Majesty, the Queen Mother. I will always remember the words she spoke to me and the kindness she showed to everyone she met. Lady Elphinstone has always been close to the heart of Musselburgh, and it was timely to see this gracious lady honoured by the town. I will never forget the vast crowds that turned out to support the celebrations, and the respect they showed for their traditions and the pride they had in their heritage. The 1995 reign of the matches is only a few years away. We no longer have a provost and town council to finance the event, and so if we want these celebrations to succeed, as they have done in the past, it is an immense task now falls on the townspeople themselves. I am confident that the community will respond to this challenge and that our historic celebrations will be preserved and continue right into the future.